we specialize in a lot of things, actually, but one of them is high-rise condos. And I just wanted to give you the history. This company started over 20 years ago in Virginia, Northern Virginia, right outside of D.C. We used to work in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, that tri-state or 2 states in D.C. Area. So there's a lot of big remodeling companies in that area. Some of the biggest in the country that do what we do. This is one of the reasons that we are who we are. We've learned from these big companies. They're full service, design build companies. They're not exactly like we are at this point, but they were way up here when we were a starting out fledgling company. And they were so big in that area, the best ones, some of the biggest in the entire country up there, that they did not work in high-rise condos. So they just wouldn't do it. They still don't do it, okay? Because a typical construction company, let's just say, like, if you're going to frame a new house, like you're dealing with typical stuff, particularly in the DC market. In the DC market, there's a lot of traffic. So in Washington, DC, tons of traffic. So you would want to start your framing early in the morning. You would want to get there at 7 or 7:30. You're beating the traffic, you're beating rush hour, and then you would want to leave around 3:30. So a typical contractor would work from like 7 to 3:30 or something like that, 7:30 to 4. And then they can get home before they don't want to be in that 9 to 5 time frame. So in condos, oftentimes that's not allowed. There's gated communities. We specialize in the gated communities up there in Northern Virginia. Still work there now. The brand that we have up there, it's not called Bath Match, it's called G&A, was our original brand. Is still going strong, G&A Bath and Kitchen up there, and they're still servicing that. So I found a niche to go into because all the big competitors were ignoring them. And then you have customers, and they call people and they won't get calls back, because people don't want to work in a gated community where they have to start at 9 o'clock or leave by 5, or they can't work on holidays, or they can't work on the weekend. I mean, for most remodeling in a single family house, it is much easier. I mean, if you want to work 60 hours a week, you can. If you need to make up time because there were some delays in mid-job, you can work Saturday, or you can work till 8 p.m. if the homeowners don't mind. But in a condo, you can't do that. They're very, very strict. And some condos are stricter than others. Not all of them are that strict. But in the big gated communities with security people, they're enforcing when you can come on the premises, when you have to leave, or they're gonna have you towed. Anyway, we actually we had to get into that because the other market was taken by these really big successful companies. Now at this point, we're as big now, 20 years later, as those companies were back then. We might even be bigger than them. We're certainly doing more jobs than they're doing because we're very high volume. Here in Florida, I'm talking about the Florida location now. And those guys they're not here in Florida. Those big companies, we are the biggest that I know of in Florida. I don't know of anybody that's doing hundreds of kitchens and bathrooms a year like we are here every single year in Pinellas County and the surrounding Tampa Bay area. So, but that's why we got into the condos. So do you have when you're dealing with customers, is there any concern that they have about us or specializing in condos, or horror stories from other contractors messing things up?
Sure. So the first thing that I hear pretty often actually is when you're trying to get a tub to shower conversion or trying to get your shower redone, a lot of the companies in the area still do not work in condos. Now, part of that's because they're not licensed to, and part of that is because a lot of the acrylic products just don't work very well in condos where the drain location is fixed. And there's technical reasons for that, but we know how to handle all of that, so we're used to it. But very often, people will be concerned that they're not going to be able to get approval through their condo association for their project. Some of as you probably know, if you live in a condo, some condo association boards are made up of people who are really interested in your project, and others are pretty laid back. And so you have a whole spectrum of people that you're dealing with. And when you have one that creates more hurdles and is more difficult to get through, a lot of times the condo owners are a little worried about what it's going to take to get it approved. We do so much of this that for us, getting approval is super easy. So I've mentioned it before, but the condo pack that we have has copies of all of our licenses, plumbing, electrical, general contracting, copies of our liability insurance, copies of our workers' comp, data on our sound underlayments, which are required in all condos that are multi-level. And so that helps a lot of people just feel like, oh, okay, we know what we're doing, which of course we do. And then we have a really good relationship with a lot of the condo associations as well. So we get a lot of recommendations from them because they want a company who they know is going to do floor protection in the hallways as needed. And everyone, again, has different rules. They want the elevators padded. They want to make sure. We've heard stories about people pouring paint down their drains and things like that, pouring grout into the plumbing system, which you can just imagine the ramifications in a multi-level condo, what that would do. So our guys are completely hatted and understand entirely what is an okay thing to do and what is completely unacceptable, and we follow those. So yeah, we help push through the approvals on the regular basis. I actually can't recall any in the last 3 years. I can't recall a single condo association that did not approve us doing a project. So that's great.